Husband Pei Yang got 2 pieces of fine warm jade. Their daughter, Huan Huan, happily ran to ask for them. He did not give, saying he would give them to the 2 daughters born to his eldest sister. Warm jade comes in pairs. Giving them to the 2 of them is just right. Later he hunted a whole piece of snow fox fur. It is a single piece, so this time he should not give it to others. The daughter was extremely happy, full of expectation. But the next day, the snow fox fur had been cut into 2 small cloaks and sent to the eldest sister's house. The daughter still received nothing. She was so heartbroken that she accidentally fell into the pool. She choked and fainted for a full 3 days. When she woke, she no longer remembered Pei Yang as her father, and even felt repulsed. "I hate him, mother. Would you please divorce him from him?" 01 Hearing this, the nursemaid who was currently feeding the daughter medicine changed color in an instant. She stood up, looked outside the room, then lowered her voice and whispered to the daughter, "Pei Shizi is your father. Filial paternity comes first. This would be very disrespectful to say, and it must not be spoken again. If the Shizi hears it, it would be bad. My daughter was raised by a nanny from infancy. She and I both treat her as the apple of our eye. I fear she will bear the label of being unfilial. The daughter is young and does not yet understand these rules and discipline. She just nests in my arms and keeps repeating, 'Anyway, I simply don't like him, don't like him.'" Seeing the daughter shed tears, the nanny hurriedly spoke to comfort her. "He is your father, who has loved you since you were little." "Liar," the daughter angrily interrupted the nanny, sniffing, "In the days I've been sick, mother, and you have stuck with me every step. But he has never come once." The daughter spoke correctly. These days, Pei Yang has been at the general's mansion. 3 days ago, on the day the daughter fell into the water, Pei Yang had already cut 2 pieces of snow fox fur into small cloaks for the eldest sister's 2 little girls, feeling that he owed the daughter, and proposed to take her out to play. But before they could go out, the general's mansion hurriedly sent word the eldest sister's little girl, due to overeating, is now in distress, refuses medicine, and cries to see the aunt. The eldest sister, afraid she would exhaust herself crying, sent someone to the Shizi's mansion with a message to Pei Yang, inviting him to come over for a visit, and to comfort the young girl while there. Upon hearing this, Pei Yang immediately wanted to go to the general's mansion to calm the situation. The daughter held him back. "Father, you promised to stay with me today." But Pei Yang's face turned cold, and he lectured the daughter. "How can you be so selfish? Chang Le and Wei Yang's father has long been stationed at the frontier, cannot accompany them often. They are already pitiful, and you only think of yourself." After speaking, Pei Yang hurried away and even left his daughter alone at the gate of the crown prince's residence. "It was not until the maid reported it that I learned of it. I hurried over and found my daughter standing alone at the door, forlorn, scolded by her most respected father. She felt wronged. When she saw me, she threw herself into my arms and cried. I cried along with her. My daughter is my heart. When she suffers, I hurt more than anyone." My daughter hiccuped and asked, "Mother, am I really so selfish?" A hint of confusion flashed in her eyes, and Pei Yang's words made her begin to doubt herself. I immediately knelt in front of her and said seriously, "Ningning is very good. It was Daddy who said the wrong thing. It's his fault." Only then did my daughter stop doubting herself. But she was still sad and wanted to cry more, yet she was afraid I would worry, so she ran alone to the back courtyard. But my daughter is only 5 years old, and I didn't feel at ease. So I had the maid quietly follow her, not letting her run into trouble. In the back courtyard there is a very deep pond. It had rained last night, and the bank was slippery. The maid caring for my daughter slacked off, didn't keep an eye on her, and let her go to the edge alone, and she eventually fell into the pond. In the bitter cold of winter, although my daughter was rescued at once, she still fell into a coma. After examining her, the physician gave her acupuncture and wrote a long prescription, saying she should take it once she wakes. I waited for 3 days. During this time, I sent someone to the general's mansion to report that my daughter had an incident at home and was now in a coma, and I, as her father, hoped he would hurry home. But I did not wait for Pei Yang. I only received a message from the maid beside my elder sister. She said Pei Yang asked her to pass on this message. "The prince consort has said for you not to employ these little tricks, are too young. Mrs. like the prince consort very much, so the prince consort should stay a few more days at the general's mansion to accompany them." She paused, then added, "Our madam also asked me to convey a message to you. Madam says you are very fortunate to be able to marry the prince consort as your wife. So you shouldn't be playing these tricks any longer. 02 My elder sister and I are twin sisters as well, but I was born a half-quarter later, still a girl. When father saw this, he was greatly disappointed. He only chose to hold my elder sister. Mother blamed me for not being a boy, making her look bad in front of others. From childhood, father and mother only doted on elder sister, treating her as the apple of their eye. Father even favored the younger half-brother born to auntie, but he simply did not like me when we were still young. I didn't feel there was anything wrong. Later, as I grew older and saw my parents' favoritism, I was filled with sorrow and would hide in a corner to cry. Then neighbors moved in next door, and Pei Yang's father was also a government official, a close friend of father. The two families were very intimate, and over time Pei Yang and I grew more familiar with each other. He always said I was clever and spirited, not as composed and gentle as elder sister since childhood. I initially felt a little sad, but Pei Yang said that he only liked me, and I suddenly wasn't sad anymore, even extremely glad. And then, my elder sister, Ji, and I, our parents, chose for her a most noble husband, Song Zhen, the young general, talented in both civil and military arts, and handsome as jade. As for the topmost esteemed among the men of the capital, he stands supreme. My elder sister was naturally overjoyed. At the same time, Pei Yang and I also became engaged with the family's consent. The engagement was only a few months old when border turmoil erupted. Song Zhen is a grand general, required to guard the country and march on the battlefield. A royal decree summoned him back to the frontiers. At that time, my elder sister was pregnant and unable to accompany him, so she stayed at the general's residence. Our parents, distressed that her husband was not by her side, would visit her every so often and also sent me to check on her. But at that time, I was also pregnant, and because the fetal condition was unstable, I could only lie in bed and rest at first. In order not to trouble me and to spare my parents from feeling obligated by filial piety, Pei Yang volunteered to go to the general's mansion to visit my eldest sister. The two of them hadn't been close before, but in just these few months, with the bond of in-laws forming, they gradually grew to know each other better. Pei Yang kept telling me that my eldest sister was difficult to deal with, and that after I give birth I should make sure to visit the general's mansion to see her more often. Even when my eldest sister was delivering, Pei Yang stayed outside her chamber the whole time, anxious and urgent. The elder sister gave birth to a pair of twin sisters, Chang Le and Wei Yang, both of whom are incredibly adorable little girls. Pei Yang loves them dearly, and whatever fine goods there are in the mansion, he never forgets to share a portion with them. When daughters are still in swaddling clothes, one doesn't mind, but now she is 5 years old, often seeing her father dote on other little girls, she cannot help feeling wronged, not to mention that once Pei Yang gets something good, he always thinks of Chang Le and Wei Yang first, and forgets about my Pei Ning, the 2 warm jade pieces that were to be rewarded in the palace. Her Majesty the Empress said they were for my daughter, but Pei Yang didn't give them. He secretly sent the 2 warm jades to Chang Le Wei Yang. When my daughter found out, she was extremely upset. She has loved jade since she was little, waited for a long time, hoped for a long time, and in the end those 2 jades were not given to her. She is so wronged. Pei Yang also felt a bit guilty and comforted her, saying, "New on you is an even number, just right for them. If next time there is only one treasure, I swear, I will definitely leave it only to Ning Bao in my family." Only then did his daughter break into a cheerful smile. She likes daddy and is willing to trust Pei Yang. So later, when Pei Yang hunted down a snow fox pelt, his daughter was full of anticipation. The snow fox pelt was singular and could not be shared with others, so it must be hers alone. She waited for a long time, and soon grew sleepy, rubbing her eyes and falling asleep in my arms. Pei Yang had not yet delivered that snow fox pelt to her room, until the morning of the next day. When the daughter woke up and could no longer wait, she went to Pei Yang to ask for it. Pei Yang was in the study, just ordering someone to send 2 small cloaks made from the snow fox pelt to the general's residence. The daughter heard this, turned to look at me, tears welling in her eyes. "Mother, I have nothing left." I also burst into tears. Suddenly, the daughter, who had been lying on the bed unconscious, began to move her fingers. I hurriedly had the maid call the doctor. 03 The daughter woke up, but because she bumped her head on the bottom of the pool, she had lost part of her memory. The doctor said she would forget some things and would never remember them again. As for what she would forget, no one knows. I was terribly afraid that my daughter would forget me, her mother. Fortunately, when she woke up she threw herself into my arms, calling me mother in a soft, sweet voice. The ayah was a little nervous, kneeling by the couch and watching the daughter carefully. The daughter turned her head and also flashed a smile at her. I don't know what she forgot, so I asked her about the past. My daughter has a good memory. She remembers that I once made her beautiful little lanterns, and she also remembers that I liked taking her to swing in the yard, until I mentioned Pei Yang. My daughter, who had just been all smiles, suddenly hugged her head with both hands. She kept crying out in pain, saying her head hurt, and her body ached as well. I was terrified and hurried to tell someone to call the physician. The physician, after hearing this, asked my daughter a few questions and told me, "Miss, you have completely forgotten the Prince Pei. Moreover, due to the injury on your head, you cannot now bear to hear the Prince Pei's name, nor anything related to him, or else the headache becomes unbearable." I did not dare to provoke her, so I could only put away all things related to Pei Yang. He is still staying at the general's mansion, accompanying Chang Lewei-yang, for more than half a month now. During this time, my daughter's injuries have gradually improved, and she can get out of bed and walk every day. If we mention Pei Yang again, she will not have a headache, but she simply dislikes it in her heart. Whenever I mentioned him before, I would get a headache. I suppose he treated me poorly. My daughter is small in stature but clever, always had a strong will, and once she decides on something, there is no changing it. The nurse worries that this will cause her to disrespect Pei Yang, not for Pei Yang's face, but because this dynasty highly respects filial piety, and children who are disobedient will be punished severely. But I truly don't like him. The daughter was a little sad, looking at the small wooden horse that the maid had set out again in the room, the one Pei Yang had personally made for her when she was young. The daughter pointed at the little horse with a look of disgust. So ugly, obviously not made for me with genuine care. The wet nurse felt even more heartache, for the daughter was right. This little wooden horse originally belonged to Pei Yang, but he had spoiled it. He wanted to make one for Chang Lewei-yang, but feared he wouldn't do well, so he practiced a bit and gave the ugliest little wooden horse to the daughter. The two exquisite, beautiful little wooden horses were delivered to the general's mansion. In the past, the daughter loved Pei Yang and treated them as treasures, insisting they be kept in her room every day. But now she frowned and, imitating my tone, ordered the maid Hongxiu, "Go and throw away this little wooden horse. It's so ugly it hurts my eyes." She stretched out her hands to cover her eyes, as if she wouldn't open them until the wooden horse was discarded. Hongxiu glanced at me, and I nodded. Only then did she carry the little wooden horse out. When the daughter heard the movement, she lowered her hands and shouted again. Besides the little wooden horse, there are also the paper kite, the clay doll, and the stuffed tiger. I don't like them either. Throw them all away together. The daughter didn't remember Pei Yang, yet she could precisely loathe every item he gave her. Perhaps this is karma. Pei Yang cherished Chang Lewei-yang long more than his own daughter, so it's no wonder his daughter no longer liked him. Seeing my daughter's strong resistance, the once easily suppressed longing in my heart has risen again. I stroke my daughter's small face and ask seriously, "If I promise you to leave the prince's manor, would you agree?" My daughter immediately nods, delighted. "I would, I will." The nursemaid looks at me, eyes full of worry. "Lady, have you really decided to divorce the prince?" I nod, without a moment's hesitation. "I will not regret it. Frankly, over the years Pei Yang has always treated me very well, but he is good to my elder sister, and even better to the twin daughters born to her, even more so than to Pei Ning. I cannot stand it. When my daughter had trouble, he didn't come back, staying with other people's families, accompanying other people's wives and children. What use is such a husband and father to keep after the divorce? It doesn't matter if my parents support me or not. In any case, when I married, I had a dowry, though not as much as my elder sister. I would still have to consider the Pei family's face and would not be short. I alone can raise my daughter well. 04 Now that I've decided, I must begin to tally the dowry immediately, taking away every penny. I'll also send trusted aides to buy a house. As for me, I took my daughter to visit the palace. The empress cherished Pei Yang. Many years ago, a rebellion breached the imperial palace, killing people everywhere. The empress almost did not survive either. It was Pei Yang's mother who sacrificed her life to protect her, allowing the empress to live. Since then, the empress has felt immense affection for Pei Yang. She has no biological son, so Pei Yang is like half a son to her. After I married Pei Yang, I often entered the palace as well. She treats me as her own daughter, and she dances over Ningbaoer even more. Today when she sees me bring my daughter into the palace, she is very glad. Yuan Yin, you have come at the perfect time. I have just received a pair of ice silkworm jade discs, treasures of the world. Rumor has it that the jade discs are perfectly yin and yang, capable of protecting a child's soul, warding off demons, dispelling serious and minor illnesses, and are perfectly suitable for Ningbaoer. Seeing the ice silkworm jade discs on the maid's hands, my daughter's eyes widened in wonder. She held the discs, looking left and right. Overjoyed, the empress also asked after my recent situation. I did not hide anything and told the empress about Pei Ning falling into the water, and also about Pei Yang having not returned home during this period, staying at the general's mansion to accompany the elder sister's two young daughters. The empress was furious, scolding him as blind and heartless. Having a wife and daughter of his own, he still goes to take care of someone else's wife and daughter. What could he be thinking? The empress asked me again, Yuan Yin, would you like me to advocate for you? I can issue an imperial edict mandating that Pei Yang return home and never again go to the general's mansion. I shook my head, then knelt before the empress and respectfully kowtowed 3 times. I begged the empress to allow me and Pei Yang to part ways in divorce. If there were an imperial edict from the empress, no matter whether Pei Yang was willing or not, we would have to separate. She did not agree immediately, only saying, this world is harsh for women, and your parents in your family favor your eldest sister, so you already live a difficult life. If you were to divorce and raise your daughter on your own, do you know how many people would point fingers at you? I smiled, then looked at the empress. You have also said that in my family the eldest sister is favored, and I live a hard life. Therefore my daughter must not walk the same old path as mine. My own abundance of love would make her daughter very happy, but adding a small portion of Pei Yang's love, my daughter would become anxious and insecure. I know how miserable it is not to be favored, and it's not right to let her suffer again. Listening to me, the empress was silent for a long time, but finally nodded. This palace will have your wish fulfilled. I bowed with tears in my eyes to thank her. The empress, too, began to rise with the help of a maid to write the edict, when suddenly a maid rushed in and reported, Prince Pei has brought the general's wife and a pair of young daughters to see the empress. The empress frowned. Why now? The maid still lowered her head and whispered, it seems, it is for the pair of ice silkworm jade discs. 05 Hearing this, my daughter hugged the pair of jade discs even tighter to her chest, then lifted her head to look at me. Mother, I don't want to give the jade discs to them. These were given to me by the empress, and I really like them. The empress's eyes could not hide her distress. She coaxed the girl, good child, what I have given you, no one can take away, not even your father. Having spoken, she told us to go behind the screen and wait for a while, then summon Pei Yang and the eldest sister into the hall. Soon the two of them, led by palace maids, arrived in the hall and bowed first to the empress in greeting. Pei Yang then spoke, my wife, my sister's younger daughter has been plagued by nightmares recently. Many doctors and shamans have been consulted, all to no avail. I have heard that there is a pair of ice silkworm jade discs in the palace that can soothe the child's spirit, so I have brought my sister to enter the palace, hoping the empress will grant the jade discs. She bowed 3 times with great reverence, and the oldest sister also burst into tears beside her. Indeed, my little daughter is becoming more tormented every day. I don't know how much she has withered away lately. I have no other choice but to beg the crown prince to take this concubine into the palace and then seek the jade pearl. Her crying was heartbreaking and also almost beautiful. Seeing this, Pei Yang felt heartache to the core, and he hurriedly spoke, do not worry, the empress is usually kind-hearted, but it is only about the jade pearl. There will be no refusal. Having said that, he looked again toward the empress seated on the high dais, and begged her again to grant the jade pearl. The empress shook her head. That pair of jade pearls, I have already awarded to someone. The oldest sister heard this and cried even harder. Then what about my Wei Yang? She is still so small, so pitiful. Pei Yang hastily spoke again, I do not know. to whom the Empress has awarded the Jade Pearl. As the Crown Prince, he held a position of great prestige. If he demanded face-savingly, the other party would not refuse. I, Your Majesty, have awarded the Jade Pearl to Ning Bear. After saying this, the Empress could not help but glance toward the screen. I understood her intention. Today I entered the palace to seek reconciliation. The Empress does not know the inner truth and always tries to persuade the couple to stay harmonious, so she wanted to test once more, to see if Pei Yang truly treats the older sister and her two young daughters better than he treats me and my daughter. To my surprise, when Pei Yang heard this, his expression eased immediately, and he looked at his elder sister beside him. If the Jade Pearl has been given to someone else, it may still be a bit troublesome, but since it's given to Ning Bear, they are all family. If she learns that her cousin's nightmare requires this pair of jade pearls to calm her, she will surely willingly hand the jade pearl to Changle Wei Yang. This line sounds a bit shameless. I was enraged. My daughter, after losing her memory, could no longer bear it. She suddenly grabbed the jade pearl and charged out. The jade pearl is mine. I will not give it to anyone. You can forget it. Seeing his daughter suddenly appear and hearing what he had just said, Pei Yang felt a twinge of guilt and quickly spoke up. Ning Baoer, I, your father, do not mean to snatch your things. It's really that Longle Wuyang has been plagued by nightmares lately. Without these pairs of jade discs, it might weaken you a lot and you could fall ill. Ning Baoer is usually kind-hearted and certainly wouldn't bear to see you suffer, right? Before his daughter could answer, the Empress suddenly stood up, stepped in front of her daughter to shield her in her embrace, then looked at Pei Yang again. You think your wife's sister's daughter's nightmare might cause illness. But do you know that your own daughter recently fell into the water and her body hasn't yet fully recovered? Hearing the Empress's words, Pei Yang's face immediately changed color. He looked at his daughter with eyes full of disbelief. Did you really fall into the water? I also stepped out from behind the screen. The day your daughter fell into the water, someone was sent to the general's mansion to deliver a letter, telling you to hurry home, but you wouldn't believe it, and even said I used despicable means. The Empress, upon hearing this, could not help but feel heartache. Pei Yang, oh Pei Yang, do you still remember your own status? Yuan Yin is your wife. Baoer is your only daughter. How can you not trust your wife and daughter for the sake of an outsider? Pei Yang fell silent, his gaze toward his daughter becoming more and more full of guilt. Elder sister cried more loudly at the side. It's all my fault. If my husband hadn't been away, there would be no need to ask the Crown Prince for help. It's also my fault for not taking good care of Ning Baoer. Pei Yang seemed to be torn by this remark, but the daughter hadn't fully recovered yet, and the winterfall had already severely harmed her body. Now she was still coughing. Pei Yang saw her cough getting worse and felt heartache. It's all Dad's fault. It's Dad who didn't protect Ning Baoer. He wanted to reach out to hug his daughter, but the daughter didn't move, tightly holding the Empress and unwilling to let go. Seeing his once most beloved daughter not only refusing a hug but unwilling to even look at him, Pei Yang felt both heartbreak and guilt. 06 Perhaps seeing Pei Yang still harboring pity for my daughter, the Empress sighed. She is a good person. Though she herself did not achieve fulfillment, she hopes that the women and children of the world may find it, so she turned to admonish me. Yuan Yin, he already knows his wrongs. Why not give him another chance? I could not refuse. If the Empress were determined not to let us part, it would be very hard for me to leave the prince's residence. Seeing my silence, the Empress turned again to Pei Yang. It's noon already. Today you all should stay in Changchun Palace for lunch. The Empress hosted a banquet, and I could only bow in thanks, but my daughter is still young. She only took a few bites before she could not help rubbing her eyes and growing sleepy. I intended to take her to the side hall for a nap. Changchun Palace receives guests often, and the Empress knew my daughter's nap habit, so she had someone keep a side hall ready, all arranged according to my daughter's preferences. Yet the Empress shook her head, not letting me go, and told her own chief maid to take my daughter to nap. No one in Changchun Palace will move Ning Baoer. You may accompany me to dine, and there will be people to soothe Ning Baoer to sleep. My daughter is very well behaved, just as familiar with the Empress's chief maid, so she did not fuss that I accompany her. She kept rubbing her eyes and yawning several times. Before leaving, she reminded me to eat a bit more so I wouldn't go hungry. After my daughter left, the Empress turned to my elder sister. I still have some matters to handle and need to go out for a while. since you've eaten well and it's convenient to go out of the palace with me, why not accompany me for a stretch?" Although my elder sister was displeased, the imperial authority is not to be trifled with, and she could only bow in thanks and accompany the empress as they walked out of Changchun Palace together. Myself and Pei Yang were left here. The empress's original intention was to allow us to be alone, ideally to reconcile, but I remained silent throughout. Pei Yang, seeing this, spoke more openly to apologize. The day I first arrived at the general's residence, the household's young men ran in to report in a hurry that Ningbao had fallen into the water and urged me to hurry back. But you know Ningbao is usually well behaved. There are several maidservants who usually accompany her, and it's winter, so supervision is even tighter. How could she have fallen into the water so easily? "I thought you were using an excuse to trick me into going home," he said this, his voice gradually lowering, his eyes filled with guilt. "I truly did not know she had fallen into the water. If in the past, I could endure and swallow my pain for the sake of my daughter, but now my daughter no longer remembers him, does not love him, and surely will not be distressed or heartbroken because of him. I, too, have no reason to endure in silence while Pei Yang spoils Chang Lewei-yang again and again, so after I heard him finish speaking, I wanted to propose a separation to him directly, but before I could speak, a palace maid rushed in, her face pale with alarm, and she cried out anxiously, "Her Highness, Miss Pei has fought with the general's wife." 07. When Pei Yang and I arrived at the side hall, my daughter had just wrapped her left arm around Changjie's arm and bit down hard. Changjie cried out in pain, tears streaming down, and the accompanying maid did not dare to step forward. Both of them were mistresses, and they feared that approaching might bring trouble upon themselves. Seeing Changjie hurt, Pei Yang immediately rushed over, grabbed the girl by the collar, and separated the two. Yang, I'm in so much pain," Changjie cried bitterly, then raised her left arm again, her smooth, jade-like wrist bearing a clear tooth mark. My daughter had blood in her mouth. I hurried forward to have the palace maids fetch a bowl of water to rinse her mouth. Pei Yang turned to look at my daughter. "It's only been half a month since you last saw me, and you've become so willful and brazen as to bite someone in Changchun Palace. What arrogance!" he rebuked sternly. If this had happened in the past, my daughter would have cried endlessly, but now she didn't cry at all. Instead, she tilted her head and fixed Pei Yang and Changjie with a hard glare. If it weren't for her trying to steal my jade while I was asleep, how could I have bitten her? My daughter is usually well behaved and never starts trouble, so after the two of them fought, I could vaguely guess what had happened. Pei Yang frowned. "Even if your aunt wants your jade by, you shouldn't bite people," my daughter sneered coldly in reply. "Then by your way of thinking, if she wants my life one day, I also shouldn't resist. I never intended that," Pei Yang immediately denied. As he was about to say something else, Changjie suddenly knelt down, clutched Pei Yang's clothes tightly, and pleaded with all her heart, "If only Ningbao could give me the jade bite to save my Chang Lewei-yang. Even if she wants to bite me to death, I won't utter a sound. I only ask for a pair of jade bite to save my daughter," she cried so sadly. "Pear blossoms with rain." Pei Yang softened. He looked at his daughter. "It's just a pair of jade discs. What harm is there if you give them to Chang Lewei-yang? These are mine." "I'm not willing to yield," the daughter refused decisively. Pei Yang frowned. "Before, you were naive, lovely, and kind-hearted. How did you become so selfish and self-serving now?" After speaking, he glared at the maids in the room and immediately commanded, "You, take out that pair of jade discs. Hurry up." Now that the empress is not in the Changchun Palace, Pei Yang holds the highest status as crown prince. The maidservants exchanged glances but did not dare to refuse. Thinking to go to the bed to take the daughter's pair of jade discs, seeing this, the daughter rushed over and picked up a pair of jade discs first, then looked at Pei Yang. "These are mine, mine." Pei Yang's brows drew together as if anger lurked in his eyes, then he reached out toward his daughter. "I'll say this one last time, hand over the jade discs." The daughter refused to give them. Seeing Pei Yang reaching to seize them, I had planned to shield her, but the daughter moved even faster, smashing the jade discs hard onto the ground. The jade discs were valuable. With a hard smash they shattered into countless pieces. She looked at the underfoot. The sound was very quiet. "Even if I break them, I will not give them to you, Pei Ning." Pei Yang was furious on seeing this, and he raised his right hand high as if to strike his daughter, The daughter did not move, only stubbornly stared at him with hatred in her eyes. Pei Yang's heart trembled a little and he did not dare actually strike her. I stepped forward and gave Pei Yang a slap with full force. Important. Pei Yang flinched, turning his head aside, eyes wide with disbelief. I held my daughter and looked at Pei Yang again. You have driven Ning Bao to this extent. Do you know she hasn't fully recovered yet and now she has been frightened again? Are you trying to force her to death? I did not. Pei Yang seemed to suddenly remember that his daughter had recently fallen into the water. Regret filled his eyes. Ning Bao, your father really did not mean that. He was just a bit urgent a moment ago. The daughter refused to respond, burying her head in my embrace, the eldest sister beside them, clutching her arm, suddenly cried out in pain. It hurts so much. Why does it hurt so badly? Pei Yang, upon hearing this, turned his gaze to the elder sister. The injury on her arm was still bleeding. He frowned slightly and walked to the elder sister. Yuan Yin, your elder sister is injured. I'll take her to be bandaged first. We'll discuss the rest later. After saying this, he supported the elder sister and left, not daring to look back at me again. 08 There was trouble in the palace. After hearing of it, the Empress hurried back. Seeing the jade discs smashed on the ground, she frowned, and the maid who had been tucking the daughter in for a nap immediately recounted everything in detail. On hearing this, the Empress immediately leaned down and hugged her daughter. This is my fault. I did not expect Shen Yuanshu to secretly return to the Changchun Palace, and it caused Ning Bao to suffer a great injustice. The daughter sniffed, and the previously especially steadfast girl cried so much she became a tearful mess. She choked and said, "Sorry, I really did like these jade discs, but he insisted on grabbing them back, and I didn't want to give them, so I smashed them. I'm sorry, my daughter cried bitterly, and I felt heartbroken. Even the Empress felt the same. No blame. The Empress immediately had someone fetch other good things from the storeroom to comfort my daughter. Seeing my daughter finally stop crying, the Empress breathed a sigh of relief and then looked at me. I'm the one who's at fault here, always thinking that we should not beat the two apart, as if to say we should reconcile. Yet I didn't expect it would cause you and Ning Bao to suffer. She walked up to me, took my hand, and gently patted it. Rest assured, I will only make this kind of mistake once. I hesitated a little. And what about the divorce? The Empress shook her head, and my heart suddenly sank. But then I heard her say, my imperial edict can't compare with His Majesty's holy decree. Wait 2 more days, and I will certainly make you satisfied with this matter. I could clearly sense the hint in the Empress's words, and I was filled with gratitude. My daughter also bowed respectfully to thank her. The Empress, feeling affectionate toward her, already pitied her for falling into the water and injuring herself. Today she has again been frightened. She insisted that my daughter and I stay a couple of days in the palace. Let the imperial physician examine her. She's only 5 years old. Don't let this leave any lasting illness. The palace's imperial physicians are, of course, the best. For my daughter's sake I did not refuse. And after another respectful thank you, I brought my daughter to stay in the palace for 2 days. 2 days later I led my daughter out of the palace and back to the heir apparent's residence. Although we were in the palace these days, I did not forget to send word back to the government to have things packed and prepared properly. Hongxiu, my personal maid, had already arranged my dowry list before I returned to the residence, packing enough to fill dozens of carriages. Just back at the residence, the wet nurse could hardly wait and picked up the daughter, looking her over from left to right, then burst into tears with heartache. How can the crown prince be so muddled, to bully his own daughter for others' sake? The daughter reached out to wipe the wet nurse's tears, and she smiled a bit. Anyway, I never treated him as my father. The wet nurse felt even more distressed. She put the daughter down and spoke slowly. Earlier, I was afraid the young mistress would be sad once she recovered her memory, so I had all the little things the crown prince made for her collected by others. Now it seems that what should be smashed still must be smashed, and what should be burned still must be burned. After speaking, she turned and signaled the maid to bring out everything and throw it all into the thatched stove. The daughter had no objection, and neither did I. Everything had been tidied up, and the caravans carrying the dowry stood to one side and set off first. When I and my daughter were about to leave, Pei Yang suddenly returned to the mansion. He held Longle Wei Yang in his arms, one on each side. Seeing my daughter and me in front of the courtyard, he looked surprised. Are you planning to take your daughter out of the mansion? I was about to answer, but the Longle in his arms suddenly cried out, toy horse, toy horse. All right, uncle will have. Someone bring out the toy horse. What do you mean? I asked in confusion. Pei Yang sighed. These two little girls are quite willful. They destroyed one of the toy horses and were clamoring for the other good one. We really couldn't handle it, so I remembered there was another toy horse in Ningbao's room and brought them back to get it. After finishing, a momentary guilty look flashed in his eyes. As if deceiving himself, he said, in the future I will make an even better toy horse for Ningbao. In his arms, Chang Lui Yarrow heard this and cried out again, I want it too. I want a better little wooden horse. Then I want a better one too. Pei Yang, hearing this, hurriedly coaxed them softly. Okay, you all have a share. Wei Yang pouted. No, mine has to be better than Pei Ning's. Pei Yang smiled wryly. Fine, the prettiest one stays with you. After saying that, he looked at me again. Look at them, aren't they incredibly cute? Cute, I only felt scorn. The daughters rolled their eyes even more. Their voices were childish but forceful. I think the little wooden horse is ugly. I just threw it into the stove, and now it's become firewood. It burned. Pei Yang frowned, as if not believing it. He looked at the daughter. Ningbao, you used to love the little wooden horse I made the most. I don't like it now. Is that okay? Once she heard that the little wooden horse was gone, Chang Lui Yarrow began to cry loudly. The daughter covered her ears with both hands. Mother, they're almost 5 years old too. Why do they still cry so much? So noisy. Hearing this, Chang Lui Yarrow cried even harder. Pei Yang, seeing this, had no energy to question the daughters further and could only try to coax the two in his arms, but nothing seemed to work. Don't cry. Uncle will take you to the street to buy things. Okay. Only then did Chang Lui Yarrow gradually stop crying, and she urged, I want to go now. You must not bring Pei Ning, she's bad. She burned my little wooden horse. The daughter grimaced and snarled at her. Song Changla, do you have no shame? Even if I don't like the little wooden horse, it's still mine. Are you a beggar? Can you not stand owning other people's things? Song Changla, who had been spoiled from youth, cried harder under the daughter's scolding. Pei Yang could only quickly start to coax again, and could not help but turn to reprimand the daughter. Pei Ning, you're the elder sister, how can you talk like that? You're still the father, and I don't see you ever supporting your own daughter. I spoke impatiently. Pei Yang, hearing this, evidently lacked confidence and did not dare continue arguing with me. So he hugged Chang Lui Yarrow and left. 09. I did not stay at the Crown Prince's residence any longer either. The carriage was brought to the gate, and I got into the carriage with my daughter and headed to the mansion in the west of the city. The Empress was benevolent and kind. Knowing I had decided to live alone with my daughter, she gave me a set of houses in the Western District. They weren't as luxurious as the Crown Prince's residence, but they were spacious and comfortable, and my daughter liked them very much. The world was too chaotic, and we feared being targeted, so the Empress specially sent away the family's guards to protect our safety, guarding the gate and preventing idle people from approaching. She also bestowed many things, which, after being catalogued, were stored in the warehouse, enough to last us a lifetime without having to worry about food and clothing again. My daughter adored the mansion. She chose a courtyard filled with all kinds of flowers and plants to live in, and she even pleaded with Hongxiu to make a swing for her. She sat on it, a nursemaid behind her helping to push, while I watched from the side. A gentle life, peaceful beyond measure. Blinking, half a month has passed, and the new year is approaching. My daughter cannot sit still, begging me to take her out of the mansion to play. Now that there is no longer a curfew, the night market is especially bustling, and many lanterns are hung everywhere. In front of the capital's largest restaurant, 3 extremely beautiful lanterns are hung, and you must solve a riddle to obtain them. When I took my daughter there, all 3 lanterns had already fallen into Pei Yang's hands. Chang Lui Yang clapped from the side and started competing for the lanterns again, and no one would yield to the other, until one of the lanterns was damaged. The 2 of them stopped, each carrying a perfectly intact lantern and making peace again. My daughter yawned. Mother, I'm a bit sleepy. I want to go home. I nodded, picked up my daughter, and went home. In the late afternoon of the next day, the big door suddenly rang with a knock. A young servant went to open it and saw Pei Yang standing outside. A servant reported in a hurry, I should go to the front yard to see him. Pei Yang's eyes were full of anger. As soon as he saw me, he began to question, "Why did you move out?" I knit my brows and, counting the days in my heart, found it amusing. Pei Yang only today realized I had left the residence, revealing that in these days I had never returned to the prince's mansion and had been living at the general's residence all along. Seeing my smile, Pei Yang seemed to realize something as well. No longer as domineering as before, his tone softened considerably. "Yuan Yun, lately Chang'le Wei Yang has been ill all this time. I've stayed with them a few more days, but with the coming of the new year, our family must spend it together. Don't throw a tantrum, take my daughter and come back to the mansion with me." "Okay, it's not appropriate for our families to be torn apart." Seeing that he was still without any remorse, I felt sad for my daughter and shook my head. "Pei Yang, let us divorce." Pei Yang frowned dramatically. "Divorce? Why divorce? Is it because I often go to the general's residence to accompany Chang'le Wei Yang?" I sneered. "So you knew it too?" He awkwardly turned his eyes away, not daring to look at me, and once again, like a deceiver, spoke. "Chang'le Wei Yang's father cannot return to the capital for years. They are very pitiful. I, as the brother-in-law, have cared a bit more. Yuan Yun, they are also your nieces. Isn't it right to take better care of them? Taking care of my daughter who has long been away from home is not a big issue, but if doing so harms my own daughter, that would be a huge joke." Over the years, Chang'le Wei Yang has received far more fatherly love than Pei Ning, yet before she lost her memory, Pei Ning was kind and soft-hearted. No matter how aggrieved she was, she never threw a tantrum to make Pei Yang accompany her alone. Once, when she asked for something, Pei Yang scolded her for selfishness. She was only 5, a confused age, but Pei Yang had suffered so much grievance. The more I think about it, the more I hate the Pei Yang in front of me. My mind is set. You and I must part ways. Pei Ning is mine. She will never return to the prince's mansion after this. Pei Yang, upon hearing this, sensed the determination in my words and obviously grew panicked at this moment. The daughter playing in the backyard also came out. When Pei Yang saw her, he immediately pulled out a flower lantern hidden behind his back, his eyes full of naivete and sweetness. "Ning Bao, this flower lantern is specially left for you by your daddy. Do you like it?" The daughter looked at the lantern in his hand and remained silent for a very long time, simply because the lantern in his hand was damaged, the very same one that Wei Yang had broken last night. She tilted her head and asked him, "In your heart, do I only deserve the worst?" Pei Yang was a bit puzzled by her question, but seeing her cry made him feel distressed again. He wanted to reach out to wipe her tears, but the daughter stepped back first and leaped into the wet nurse's arms, her shoulders trembling. With sorrow I walked up to Pei Yang. "Yuan Yin," smack. Before he could speak, I slapped Pei Yang hard, taking the flower lantern he held and tossing it out of the door as well. "Pei Yang, if you ever dare bring something the Chang'le Wei Yang doesn't want to my daughter again, I will hit you every time I see you, and I will not relent." Listening to me, Pei Yang realized something as well. He wanted to shake his head and deny it, but in the end he could not utter a word. After all, this is the truth, and there is no way to refute it. Worried that my daughter would continue to be sad, I immediately ordered the guards to drive Pei Yang away. Although he is the heir, the guards belong to the Empress, and they follow the Empress's orders to protect me and my daughter, so they only obey my commands. After Pei Yang was driven away, my daughter finally emerged from the wet nurse's arms. Her eyes were a bit red and swollen from crying, and she looked again at the lantern outside the door that was already somewhat bad and had been crushed by me. "Ning Bao likes lanterns, doesn't she?" I stroked her head, perhaps because I was worried. She shook her head. "No, I don't like them at all." I did not say anything else, and she did not notice that the wet nurse and Hong Xiu had quietly left long ago. At this moment, the sky fully darkened, and I don't know who blew out the lights in the courtyard, leaving everything around dark and gloomy. The daughter shuddered and squeezed into my arms. Suddenly, the courtyard lit up with lanterns all around, hanging on the trees, on the walls, and many on the ground as well, bright and splendidly beautiful. So many lanterns. My daughter came out of my arms, looking at the courtyard full of lanterns, extremely happy. She would glance at this and then at that, loving each one as if unable to part with it. I glanced at the nursemaid and red-sleeved not far away. Both had wounds on their hands. Last night, they stayed up with me all night. To finish these lanterns, hoping to give my daughter a surprise tonight, we didn't expect Pei Yang to arrive. Fortunately, my daughter didn't dwell on it for long. She really loves these lanterns. We love her very much, very much. After my daughter finished looking at the lanterns one by one, it seemed she remembered something. She walked over to me, pulled my hand, and looked closely, then glanced again at Red-Sleeved and the nursemaid's hands. The nursemaid initially wanted to keep the back of her hand hidden behind her back so my daughter wouldn't worry, but my daughter insisted. Seeing the wounds on her hand, she burst into tears. The lanterns are quite intricate to make, and some bamboo splints are sharp. If one isn't careful, the fingers get pricked and bleed. I didn't expect my daughter to be so perceptive. To notice that these lanterns were handmade by us. My daughter didn't speak. She wiped away her tears with a sweep of her sleeve, then turned around and ran back to her own small courtyard. When she came out again, she held a painting in her hands. The painting showed me and her, along with Red-Sleeved and the nursemaid, all of us with bright smiles. My daughter smiled at us and said, "This is my gift to you, a family, none of us is missing. Do you like it?" The nursemaid cried the fastest, and Red-Sleeved's eyes reddened as well. I held my daughter tightly in my arms and bowed my head a little. We like it. We all like Ning Bao's painting. We also love a family reunion. No one is missing. 10 before 2 days had passed, Pei Yang came again. This time he brought the Imperial Guards. Yuan Yin, I won't agree to the divorce. You and Ning Bao must come back with me. What if I say no? I looked at him coldly, his heart twisted, and he looked away. Then I'll first take Ning Bao away. She has followed me to the young master's residence. You must be worried about her and will go back with me. Using a child to threaten a mother is truly despicable. I raised my hand to hit him, but Pei Yang grabbed my wrist with deep affection. Yuan Yin, no matter how you hit me, I will never agree to the divorce. After saying that, he slowly released my hand. I did not let go of his hand. Instead, I slapped him. Pei Yang's head tilted to the side from the impact. After a moment of silence, he looked at the Imperial Guards. Hurry and go in and carry the young lady out for me. The garrison immediately surged forward into the inner chamber. He had come prepared, bringing many people. The soldiers left by the Empress to guard me, together with the minor servants in my residence, were no match for them. Pei Yang, do you have to treat me this way? Pei Yang mocked himself with a wry smile. You were the ones who wanted to leave me first. Yuan Yin, we have been husband and wife for many years. I love you to the core, and I am deeply fond of Pei Ning as well. We are one family and must never be separated. After saying this, he once again ordered people to break down the door, but before he could give the command, the sound of horse hooves came from a distance. The two of us both turned and looked. It was the chief eunuch beside His Majesty, who was holding the imperial edict in his hands. Seeing this, Pei Yang and I immediately knelt to receive the edict. By the decree of heaven and the emperor, it is proclaimed, Heir Pei and the crown prince consort have fallen out and I do not wish to force them to stay together. I hereby decree their divorce. Shen Yuanyin comes from an aristocratic family, of upright conduct, pure and blameless, with no faults. The Empress Dowager frequently praises her gentle and virtuous demeanor and often summons her to the palace. Now Shen Yuanyin is conferred the rank of first-class lady by imperial grant, and her daughter is enrolled as a county mistress, to be personally brought up by them. The current residence is to be designated as an imperial residence, and the mother and daughter may reside there in peace. No one shall censure or interfere. By command of the throne, the chief eunuch, after issuing his edict, ordered someone to bring in box after box of imperial gifts. He smiled at me and said, "This is the edict the Empress personally pleaded with His Majesty for. From now on, you may rest assured to raise the county mistress. Even if you are the county mistress's biological father, you have no say in the matter." How could the Empress be so unreasonable as to separate me from Yuan Yin? Pei Yang's face had no more blood, his eyes full of disbelief. He stumbled to his feet and said he would go into the palace to ask the Empress for clarification. I didn't stop him. His rashness would inevitably collide with the palace nobility. He was unlucky. I was pleased. 11 Exactly as I expected. After Pei Yang entered the palace, he went to Changchun Palace to seek an audience, but the Empress Dowager did not want to meet him, so he knelt at the palace gate all the way, until His Majesty appeared. Pei Yang went again to ask His Majesty to withdraw the decree, which angered His Majesty, and he was finally rewarded with 20 strokes. The palace's skill in beating people is unmatched, and Pei Yang was carried back to the Crown Prince's residence. He was injured and hardly rested for several days, not bothering me or my daughter to be quiet. And in the capital, a great event occurred in these days, a border victory, and as the defending general, Song Zhen was summoned back to the capital, the people lined the streets to welcome him. And my elder sister arrived at the city gate early with her 2 younger daughters to greet him. Because it was too lively, my daughter also wanted to take a look, so I took her to a tavern and opened a window in the private room to catch a view of the gate. Song Zhen dismounted, embraced my elder sister, and she cried bitterly. Song Zhen's eye was full of tenderness and guilt. After crying, my elder sister told Chang Luoyang that the man in armor before them was their father. Song Zhen's eyes turned red as he knelt on the ground and held their 2 daughters in his arms, but after Chang Luoyang exchanged a glance, she and her sister stepped back in unison, retreating while crying out, "We don't want him, we want Uncle. Uncle is our father, he is not," in front of everyone's eyes. All heard Chang Luoyang's words, and many people looked at each other. Pei Yang often entered the general's residence, once justified by me, but now I am separated from him. Rumors in the capital have also spread. Now with Chang Luoyang's words, many people stretched their necks to watch the excitement. Song Zhen's face darkened. My elder sister grew even more anxious and cried while explaining a lot, but cannot resist Chang Luoyang continually speaking well of Pei Yang, saying he is gentle and affable, that he accompanies day and night. My elder sister was frightened and immediately covered Chang Luoyang's mouth. Song Zhen did not speak, swung onto his horse, and said he would first enter the palace to see the emperor. After that, there was no more excitement to watch, and I led my daughter back to the residence. Nurse came back just now. She personally went to buy a fish and said she would simmer fish soup for her daughter. After returning, she told me a funny thing she had overheard on the street just now. General Song is returning to the capital today. Those 2 young ladies of the Song family are moody and say whatever comes to mind, always mentioning the Crown Prince consort. The Song madam, fearing disunity between husband and wife, even went directly to the Crown Prince's residence to ask to see the Crown Prince consort to prove their innocence. They knocked for a long time, but the Crown Prince consort never came out. General Song had just left the palace and happened to pass by the Crown Prince's residence, and after witnessing this scene, his face darkened even more. The nurse chuckled and said, "That's karma." Before she finished speaking, the front gate was knocked. A servant hurriedly reported that General Song and his wife wished to see us. The gate opened, and my elder sister, upon seeing me, pulled me and cried out, begging me to testify for her. "Sister, you must tell your brother-in-law in full detail how hard I've borne raising our 2 daughters alone when he has not been in the capital all these years. Yet he suspects that I have been entangled with your husband, and I cannot bear that. Tell him truthfully that I have never overstepped with the Crown Prince consort." I pulled my hand free from her grasp. "Elder sister, Pei Yang is not my husband. The emperor has issued an edict for our divorce, so please speak cautiously. She is my elder sister, no doubt. But our relationship has always been distant since childhood. She was pampered and adored by our parents. While I was ignored, she has not treated me well, always jeering that she is the pearl and I am the weed, so I also dislike her. I would not lie to defend her." Elder sister froze, her eyes full of bitterness, but Song Zhen beside her could only pretend to be weak and pitiful. "Then you must tell your brother-in-law that I and the Crown Prince consort are innocent and clear." "How would I know whether you are innocent or not?" I interrupted her. "He has stayed at the general's residence for a long time, and I have not gone there. How can I prove it for you?" If she cared about reputation, she wouldn't have sent word to Pei Yang to bring him into the residence to look after Chang Luoyang, nor would she have offered for him to stay temporarily in the residence. Now it's simply self-inflicted trouble at this moment. The daughter also came out. She looked at Song Zhen with a smile in her eyes. "I heard from the nurse that you are the general who defends the homeland." Song Zhen looked at the daughter with a faint smile. "I know you too, Pei Ning, a very lovely little girl." The daughter shook her head. "I'm not Pei Ning now. I bear my mother's surname. My name is Shen Ning." Song Zhen furrowed his brows, seeming puzzled. "Don't you want your father anymore?" The daughter was quiet for a moment, then laughed softly. "I don't want him anymore, he prefers Changla Wei Yang, and often takes my things because of it. I don't like such a father. The daughter then took Songjin's hand and spoke earnestly. You must also spend more time with Changla Wei Yang. After all, without a father by their side, they would be pitiful. Elder sister showed a relieved smile. But then the daughter spoke again. Otherwise they will always go and grab other people's fathers, and that's not good. If they grab mine, then fine, but other little girls must not. The daughter spoke in a child's voice. Songjun restrained his smile and nodded more firmly. He promised the daughter, okay, there will be no more of that. The daughter also nodded, seeming hesitant at first, but finally added, actually, the father I had before also made mistakes. If he had known etiquette and proper conduct, Changla Wei Yang would not have pushed forward. They both have faults, not just one, but my daughter, because they have suffered so much. How innocent she is. 12 After hearing that Songjun would return to the capital and divorce his elder sister, the elder sister did not want to cry for a long time, and in the end, they did not go through with the divorce. There were new disturbances at the border, so Songjun had to leave. This time the elder sister traveled with a pair of young daughters to the border, but the elder sister, who had grown up in the capital with its wealth and plenty of comfort, had never endured any hardship, so after less than half a month at the border, they returned. After coming back, the elder sister went to find Pei Yang to cry and complain, saying that among the border soldiers there was a female military doctor. She said Songjun treated the doctor better than he treated her, but Pei Yang never came to see her, and he kept coming to see me. He made a new small wooden horse again, even more exquisite and beautiful than the one he made for Changla Wei Yang before. The daughter only glanced at it and then threw the wooden horse out the door. Pei Yang was sad. Ningbauer, weren't you the one who loved the little wooden horse your daddy made for you the most before? The daughter shook her head and told Pei Yang, that was before. I now neither like you nor the little wooden horse you made. Hearing this, Pei Yang could not help but cry out loud, but my daughter and I will not be softened again. They closed the door, hung lanterns, and set out good wine and dishes, so this new year would be lively and bustling. 13 There are new rumors in the capital again. It is said that Songjun used his military achievements to exchange for a divorce decree from the emperor. Songjun was already a great general and was beyond being promoted. The emperor naturally worried that he would become too powerful and threaten the throne. Now, with all his military achievements, he only sought a divorce decree, and the emperor would not refuse. The elder sister could not even see anyone and could only go home. My father, though fond of the elder sister, also valued interests and knew that she had lost her value and would not get a good look again. The elder sister could only cry in front of the door of the heir apparent's mansion, making such a ruckus that it alarmed the officials. The Minister of Speech impeached Pei Yang and the elder sister, saying they disregarded the marriage ritual and damaged the etiquette of the inner court. They also said Pei Yang and my mother's sister, who cherished the two young daughters, had suspicious bloodlines and that it was a disservice to the great general who fought for the country, disgracing the royal clan's dignity and sullying the family name. The officials' tongue-lashing and pen-waving led His Majesty to decree, remove Pei Yang from the heir position, confiscate all his family property, and demote him to a commoner. As for the eldest sister, she is sent to a Daoist temple to purify and cultivate, never to descend the mountain in this life. As for the eldest sister's two young daughters, because their bloodlines were in doubt, they were returned to the Shen household. The imperial decree stands and cannot be changed. The empress is conscious of owing Pei Yang's biological mother, and thus treats my daughter even better. As for the eldest sister, she spends her days composing letters and crying, saying she wants to go home, but father will not permit it, saying the imperial decree cannot be defied. Mother, in contrast, pities the eldest sister and thus spoils Changla Wuyang. But Changla Wuyang, having grown up pampered from a young age in the general's residence, despises the Shun household and cries all day. In the end, mother lost patience and stopped personally caring for her, leaving her to be raised by an old servant, and because of the eldest sister's affair, father was impeached and had to resign in confession, losing his former majesty, and at his advanced age, was mocked by political enemies and driven out of the capital in a dejected manner. Regarding Pei Yang, without the heir title, those who previously harmed him must now repay their deeds. He fears he might be attacked on the road for no reason. He came to beg me, saying he regrets it and only wants the family to be reunited. My daughter paid him no mind, ordered the guards to close the gates, and then pulled me to go swing on the swing with her. In early March, Pei Yang's corpse was found by the East City in a ruined temple. My daughter knew and remained silent for a long time. She hid in my embrace and whispered a secret to me. Actually, I did not lose my memory. I nodded. I know. She was just too disappointed. So disappointed that she needed to find a reason not to forgive Pei Yang. So, of course, I would cooperate with her. This is the end of the first story. Don't go away. The next story is even more exciting. I am the prettiest woman in the capital, but I am somewhat slow-witted by nature, and no one dares to propose to me. The fifth prince, unable to marry my legitimate sister, marries me as a substitute. To comfort himself, he mocks himself. An idiot paired with a lame person. We're a match made in heaven. I comfort him generously. From now on I'll play the legitimate sister, you play the crown prince. We'll live together, it won't be a loss. At the concluding banquet, gazing at the prince and my legitimate sister in a loving scene, the fifth prince's expression darkened, and I felt a bitterness in my heart. Others laughed at us as a pair of resentful lovers. Back at home, the fifth prince wrapped his clothes tighter and coldly said, "Tonight you won't touch a single finger of mine." I obediently lay beside him, reflecting inwardly, sigh, it's my fault, I caused the prince to look away. I slept in a daze, and the fifth prince pushed me. He glared with anger. Shen Yufu, you're really being obedient, aren't you? If I say you can't touch me, you won't touch me, I honestly replied. Then fine, you come act as the crown prince, I'll act as the legitimate sister. The fifth prince leaned down and bit my lips, not letting me speak again. I worried in my heart, weren't we supposed to be each other's substitutes? Why is he upset again? This fifth prince's heart is truly more difficult to fathom than the weather in March 01. On the night of my wedding, the fifth prince lifted my veil. He spoke without expression. The rumors outside say that a crippled man pairs with a fool. Well, we do seem to fit, I softly argued. You are indeed crippled, but I am not a fool. They are talking nonsense. The fifth prince's eyebrows rose, and his gaze at me seemed to be assessing some rare object. I glanced at his expression, and knew I had said the wrong thing again. Before the wedding, my mother had warned me countless times not to spill my thoughts onto my face. Sigh, but I just cannot keep this mouth of mine shut. The fifth prince was unlucky as well. He and my legitimate sister were childhood sweethearts, and he was supposed to be crowned prince and marry her soon after. But after he injured his leg on the battlefield, the third prince returned and became the crown prince, and my legitimate sister naturally became the crown princess. The emperor felt guilty toward him, and upon hearing that my sister and I bore some resemblance, he simply issued a decree to grant us the marriage. That night when the decree arrived, the whole family wept. My mother cried for a heartless person like me marrying into the royal family, afraid I might not even be able to safeguard my own life. My legitimate sister cried for her beloved fifth prince, who had been rendered useless to her for no reason. Sigh, in short, no one thought highly of this marriage. I can tell the fifth prince looks down on me, so I hurriedly comfort him. Your Highness, you and the crown prince resemble each other in eyes and brows. My sister and I also resemble in mouth and nose. Why don't we become substitutes for one another and happily live out our days? Okay. After hearing this, the fifth prince sighed deeply. He seemed more despairing, and he spoke self-deprecatingly. Just now I had a moment of thinking that perhaps marrying you wouldn't be so bad, at least with you being so silly, I'd save the effort of worrying about everything. This is like a stinky ditch meeting a rotten stone. He really is the one who's foul. I waved my sleeve in front of him and snapped, I'm not stinky, I've just bathed and used many flower petals. I smell wonderful. Afraid he wouldn't notice the scent, I deliberately straightened my arm and brought it under his nose. The fifth prince's breath brushed my wrist, making it a bit ticklish. His Adam's apple bobbed, and through gritted teeth he managed to spit out, "Don't you try to seduce me. Even if you're beautiful, I'll never fall for a fool." I fumbled a tangerine candy from under the pillow and held it in my mouth, mumbling, "You've drunk a lot, smell so awful." So we are a stink of a mountain meeting the fragrance of a river, a fortuitous encounter. The fifth prince had already refused to speak to me again. I ate and drank to my heart's content, then went to bathe and change. When I stepped out from behind the screen, the fifth prince saw my clothes and suddenly turned his head away in a panic. He roared in rage, "What on earth are you wearing?" I also Felt my face burning. This dress was prepared for me by my mother. It's thin and sheer. She said the fifth prince is by no means a pond dweller and urged me to get pregnant soon. In the future, even if he takes another wife, with my child by my side, I could no doubt sit firmly as the principal wife. I remembered my mother's orders and pushed the chair of the fifth prince toward the back of the screen. The fifth prince exploded in anger. Are you crazy? How dare you strip me, Shinjufu? Ah. You deaf. Let go of me, mother said. If a man wants it, then you must not resist. The fifth prince has thin skin, so I must be thick-skinned, otherwise, in the future if I lose favor and am shut up in the yard, I'll only starve all day. I thought of this and grew afraid, urgently wanting a child. I coaxed the fifth prince. You be a good boy. If you're clean, I can go mouth to mouth. The fifth prince still struggled. I plunged into the water and hugged him tightly. The hot water surrounded us both. The fifth prince reached out and pushed me, his palm pressed against my chest, and there was a strange tingling sensation. He seemed stunned as well, staring at his own hand. I couldn't help but press closer, feeling a bit of heat stirring in my heart. I whispered, holding his neck, "Isn't it soft? When I bathe, I also like to touch myself. It smells nice and soft, and it's pretty fun." The fifth prince roared at me again. "Shut up, 02." The fifth prince refused to follow me. Refused to touch me, but there is just this big. Even if his hand doesn't touch me, our bodies are pressed together. If he moves, he'll brush against my skin. The fifth prince gave up struggling. I'm very curious what a crippled man looks like. I crept under his hem and touched him. Touching it doesn't seem different. Seeing that the fifth prince was about to lose it again, I hurriedly pulled my hand back. Before he could speak, I said first, all right, I know if I touch you again, you'll kill me." The fifth prince was snapped at by me, raised his hand and squeezed my cheek hard. After squeezing, he stared at his fingers and rubbed them. The more his brows gathered, the tighter they got. We toiled for a long while, and I was incredibly sleepy. I persuaded him, "Your Highness, let's hurry to have a child. After it's done we can sleep." The fifth prince gritted his teeth and asked, "Shinjufu, your sister is dignified and virtuous. How do you have such a shameless sister as you?" Sigh. I knew his heart still cared about my legitimate elder sister. I kindly replied, "If you treat me as the legit sister, let's handle this matter." I couldn't help but look over at his face, thinking secretly, I could also treat him as the crown prince. Hey. The fifth prince suddenly flared up, squinting his eyes and asking me, "Are you infatuated with the crown prince?" I felt guilty, thinking, is it so obvious? The fifth prince sneered, "That little thought of yours is written all over your face." I honestly said, "Then we can be substitutes for each other. It's quite happy." After saying this, the fifth prince's gaze was as cold as ice in the dead of winter. I didn't dare to vex him any longer, and I obediently crawled out of the bathtub. I heard the fifth prince irritably tapping on the water behind me. I went to change clothes, but he hadn't come out yet. I didn't dare to provoke him, so I could only let his personal attendant go in. I secretly peeked behind the screen and saw the fifth prince changing clothes. His attendant handling the bathtub. A layer of filth floated on the surface of the bathwater. I thought, how long has this fifth prince not bathed? So dirty. At this moment, the fifth prince, with his back to me, suddenly spoke softly. There was someone who used to secretly watch me bathe, and I bored their eyes out. I was scared and covered my eyes, shouting, "It wasn't me." I didn't peek. I hurried back to the bedroom, closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. Not long after, the fifth prince lay down beside me. When I heard him say the words about gouging out eyes, I felt afraid inside. Mother says the fifth prince fell from the clouds, surely harboring hostile aggression in his heart. She warned me to hide whatever happens in my heart, be happy and secretly laugh, be sad and secretly cry. In short, do not provoke the fifth prince. Half an hour later, the fifth prince could tolerate no more and pulled me out of the blanket. He looked at me with tear-streaked face, full of rage but held back. I drew my neck in like a kitten, grievance choking in my throat. I didn't cry out loud. The fifth prince tugged at my sleeve to wipe my face, irritably asking, "Then why did you cry with your head against my belly?" "Well, when I was at home I cried against my mother's belly." I thought the fifth prince was asleep, so I quietly slid under the quilt to cry beside him. Is even this not allowed? This fifth prince is too domineering. The more I think about it, the more wronged I feel. tears streaming as I said, I haven't even said you, in the middle of the night, hiding a dagger on me, it knocked into my face. This prince is noble and precious, even sleeping with a dagger for self-defense. The fifth prince's face alternated between pale and red. He pushed me inward and said, go to sleep. I sniffed and whispered, I can't sleep, I want my mother. When I used to sleep, my mother would pat my back and hum little tunes to lull me. The fifth prince pressed his temples, sat up wanting to shout, Zixiao, come keep her company while she sleeps. Not long after, a maid in purple clothes of refined appearance walked in. The fifth prince made room. Zixiao sat on the bed, and I, consciously, went to hold her and nuzzle in her embrace. Zixiao's face suddenly flushed red. I tilted my head and coaxed, big sister Zixiao, give me a hug. The fifth prince witnessed all of this, and his head buzzed. With a cold face, he drove Zixiao out. I stared at him blankly. The fifth prince gritted his teeth, got back onto the couch, and pressed me into his arms, softly patting my back. I pressed my face to his neck and gradually felt drowsiness coming on. The fifth prince hummed a nameless lullaby softly. I muttered in a faint voice, Fifth prince, you're so kind. In my dream, I seemed to hear the fifth prince mutter softly, kind, nonsense, I'll end you tomorrow. 03 The second day I was dragged out of bed by the fifth prince. We had to go into the palace early to pay respects to the emperor and the empress. I hadn't even fully woken yet, sitting at the dressing table with my head nodding like a chick pecking grains. The fifth prince, afraid of wasting time, reached out to cradle my chin and impatiently urged, get dressed quickly. Zixiao, who was already cautious by nature, found his words so verbose that she could only sigh helplessly, draw her eyebrows as distant mountains, make her look cool and aloof, use a light blush, her complexion is already vibrant, use the flying immortal bun for the hairstyle, don't use a gold hairpin. Zixiao paused in her movements and couldn't help saying, Your Highness, why don't you come instead? She truly couldn't understand why, though the fifth prince never looked at any other girl in daily life. Today he had so much to say. Moreover, with my beauty, light or heavy makeup would all suit me. Zixiao felt that any arrangement could be beautiful. The fifth prince glanced at me, drowsy, and lightly curled his lips, saying, other men are all for their lovers, so what am I to be for her? Why should I dress and groom her eyebrows? Zixiao thought that a dead duck 800 years old wouldn't have such a hard mouth as the fifth prince. She forcefully resisted the urge to roll her eyes and quickly helped me finish my makeup. When it came time to change clothes, the fifth prince suddenly woke me with a shake. He threw the clothes into my arms, expressionless, and said, change yourself. I bit my lip and lowered my gaze. The fifth prince immediately roared at me again, no crying, or you won't have breakfast. Fine, breakfast mattered more. We had only known each other for one day, and he had already found my soft spot. How would life be from now on? I sadly went to change clothes. But then the sleeve snagged the hairpin ring on my head, and I cried, Your Highness, please come in and help me. He rolled in on a wheelchair. I worried he might not reach, so I sat on his lap. The fifth prince's expression carried obvious impatience, and his touch was a bit rough. I hurriedly said, This dress is very beautiful. Please don't tear it. Take your time. The fifth prince wouldn't let it go. Even if I'm down and out, I won't be short of a single piece of clothing for you. Yet his underling's movements were certainly gentler. I rested my head on his shoulder and softly said, I know you're a good person. You treat me well. I just don't want changing clothes to waste time and cause you to be scolded. The fifth prince helped straighten the hairpin and didn't say anything. I wrapped an arm around his neck and spoke earnestly, Your Highness, rest assured, although I'm not as steady as an eldest sister, I will do my best to be a good imperial wife and protect you. The fifth prince gave a light sneer. With a honeyed mouth early in the morning, you're trying to coax me. His mouth was stubborn, but his ears turned pink. I gently nibbed at his earlobe and asked very softly, Your Highness, I wanted to ask last night, your mouth is so pretty. Kissing you must feel very comfortable. May I try it? 04 Sigh. I've angered the fifth prince again. It seems mother was right. Sometimes what's on your mind you can't say out loud. When I admitted that I wanted to kiss the fifth prince's lips, he pushed me away hard and coldly said, Marrying you is only a temporary expedient. If we separate in the future, I won't be short of your benefits. As for everything else, don't even dream about it. Fine, fine. I obediently followed the fifth prince into the palace, accompanying him inside. Zi Xiao and Lei Shan were stopped at the gate and could only be pushed in by me along with the fifth prince. Their gazes were full of worry, and I knew that after the fifth prince's leg was injured he would surely face many trials. I took the wheelchair, whispering softly, "Please rest assured, I will protect His Highness." Once we went in, the whole room of people talking and laughing paused in unison. I kowtowed to Empress Consort and then we took seats with the fifth prince. The Crown Prince asked with concern, "Fifth brother, are you well?" As soon as the Crown Prince finished speaking, Sixth Prince could not wait to sneer. "Fifth brother injured his leg. I'm afraid on the wedding night he won't be able to exert himself. TSK, TSK. Such a beauty as fifth sister-in-law will be widowed for life." The Crown Prince frowned slightly and said solemnly, "Sixth brother, don't be presumptuous." Sixth Prince giggled, "Your Majesty, my humble brother's fault was unintentional." I raised my wine cup and walked up to Sixth Prince. Sixth Prince looked at my slightly flushed face. In front of everyone, I poured the wine onto his face. He cried out, "What are you doing, fifth sister-in-law?" I was startled and took a few steps back, hiding behind the fifth prince and softly said, "I intended to toast sixth brother, but his mouth is so foul that I couldn't hold the cup steady. Will the Empress Consort and your Highness not blame me?" The fifth prince grabbed my hand, took out a handkerchief to wipe his face, and replied, calmly, "This was an unintentional fault. The Empress Consort won't blame you." The deaf and dumb Empress Consort finally spoke up, first scolding Sixth Prince for rudeness, then blaming me for improper etiquette and ordering me to copy the women's etiquette as punishment. "Let's just pass this lightly," I whispered to the fifth prince. I refused to copy it. He raised an eyebrow and asked, "Aren't you afraid the Empress Consort will punish you again?" I answered boldly, "She can still send someone to the prince's mansion to hit me, right, Humph?" My mother had said I just needed to maintain appearances with the Empress Consort. In my heart, I still had to be the closest to the fifth prince. The Empress Consort is the fifth prince's stepmother, not exactly my proper mother-in-law. As long as the fifth prince protects me, she cannot lay a hand on me, whether she punishes me or hits me. At the banquet, the crown prince and the princes and princesses took turns to toast the fifth prince under the guise of the wedding joy. I saw him drink and start glancing outward, knowing he was looking for Lei Shan's service, but sixth prince came over with a gloomy expression and said, "Fifth brother, your attendant has been sent away on a task by me. If you need to use the toilet, shall I take you there?" Sixth prince reached out to push the fifth prince's wheelchair. I stepped forward, kicked him aside, and then, in front of him, wiped the handle of the wheelchair he had touched. Sixth prince glared at me and asked ominously, "What does fifth imperial sister-in-law mean?" I honestly replied, "That exact thing you're thinking." Sixth prince, though his body odor was later treated, always suspected others. He would likely have rough skin from rubbing himself raw after he returns. After I finished speaking, I quickly pushed the fifth prince toward the cleansing room, and when I looked back and saw sixth prince hadn't chased after us, I breathed a sigh of relief. I worryingly said, "I heard sixth prince is particularly petty and vengeful. He won't come after me, right?" The fifth prince asked in a calm tone, "You're so timid, how dare you affront him?" I didn't want to miss such a good opportunity to show off, so I straightened my chest proudly and said, "Of course I will." I said I would protect His Highness well. Even if I can't become his wife, I can still be a meritorious official. If the fifth prince really has a chance to ascend the throne as my mother said, then I could become a duke's wife. Thinking of this, I felt floating in the air. I hurriedly helped the fifth prince with his trousers, saying eagerly, "Your Highness, I'll help you." He pushed me away, thinking I was smug and forcefully helped him. As a result, I accidentally hurt him, and I eagerly helped him examine the injury. The fifth prince flew into a total rage. "Get out." Leaving the cleansing room, I bowed my head and struggled a bit, saying, "Your Highness, I actually like you quite a bit in my heart. Won't you live a life with me?" The fifth prince, with a hollow heart, said, "Shen Yufu, I clearly tell you this. If Xiao Shuo loves you, then let me become a dog." 05 The fourth prince would rather be a dog than live life with me. I have completely given up the idea of bearing his child, but life as a crown prince consort is far better than staying at home. When at home, I receive 20 taels of monthly allowance, and I eat, drink, and buy things. By the end of the month, I'm always short. My mother often jokes with me, "Take a look at your accounts. At first you took care to record honestly, later you actually started recording fake accounts. You tell me, you've spent 35 taels. How can there still be a surplus of 5 taels? When exposed, I would lie in her arms and pout. My mother would cradle me affectionately and kiss my forehead, sighing, "Fine, it's okay if you're a bit dull. I don't expect you to marry into any noble family anyway. Stay at home as a girl all your life, and I'll take care of you." My mother doesn't speak empty words. Although she is merely a concubine, she indeed has a fair amount of money by her side. My father is a third-rank martial official with an upright family tradition, and there is only my mother as a concubine. My legitimate mother, from a prestigious family, is cold in temperament but never makes things difficult for us. At home there are only my legitimate sister and me, although my legitimate sister always dislikes me for being naive. If someone offends me, she always defends me. After I was betrothed to the 5th prince, my legitimate sister cried with me for a long time. She wiped away her tears and said, "It's you, you're better than others." Xiao Shuo is an icy person with an even colder heart. We played together since childhood and couldn't warm him. After you marry him, if you're neglected, don't hurt yourself, spend more of his money and live your days well. I didn't quite understand these words. I asked my sister curiously, "Sister, you like him so much, why didn't you refuse the 3rd prince in the first place?" My sister froze for a moment, then spoke with some resentment. "When the 3rd prince asked to marry me, I did write him a letter asking, but he only replied with 2 words, 'Do as you please.' Tell me, what meaning is there in marrying someone like that? Love and power, I must obtain one of them." She grew more and more irritated as she spoke. "Forget it, you're a blockhead with no brain. You wouldn't understand these matters of love and romance even if I told you." Yet I was thinking inwardly that I understood. Love and romance are like July thunderstorm days. Moments ago the sky is bright and clear, and the next moment the clouds gather. It seems the rain is coming but arrives late, only making people feel uneasy. Then suddenly a torrential downpour, soaking the body and wetting the heart. In short, I do not wish to understand. I want my life to be forever sunny. The crown prince doesn't want to have children with me, so according to my mother, I'm bound to fall from favor in the future. Now the most important thing is to take advantage of still being a princess consort and fill my small treasury. On the day of the divorce, I will have plundered the treasury. Who will he dote on then? I hug a box full of gems and roll happily on the bed. Footsteps rush outside the door, and I look up to see Zixiao carrying Xiao Shuo into the inner chamber. Xiao Shuo's face is flushed, but his lips are pale. Zixiao explains anxiously, "The Empress consort intends to frame His Highness, pollute the harem after poisoning him, but Lei Shan discovered it in time and brought His Highness back to the mansion. His leg is crippled because he was poisoned. Recently he's been taking medicine and there's some improvement, but this love poison conflicts with the medicine's nature. If we don't it, I'm afraid His Highness's leg will be completely disabled." I see her so anxious that tears are coming out, and I hastily say, don't cry, it's just love poison. I'll it for him." After hearing this, Zixiao immediately lowers the bed curtain and leaves. I stare at the half-conscious Xiao Shuo in a daze. "Hey, Zixiao, you didn't say how to detox." 06 Xiaoshuo woke up, but I think he's a bit crazy. Xiaoshuo sat up, first staring at me, then at his own crotch. He slapped his own crotch and roared, "Why are you so useless? Dreaming of that big fool again." I was stunned, my breath trapped in my chest. Xiaoshuo reached up and pinched my face, then suddenly broke into a smile. He muttered to himself, "Today's dream was so real. Shen Yufu's face is just this soft and sweet. He. While talking, he licked my face twice, then evaluated. "That's right, this is the taste." On the wedding night when we bathed together, I was wrapped in this sweet scent. Xiaoshuo pulled me into his arms, lowered his head, and bit my lips. My heart leaped like thunder, and my body felt a bit numb and soft. He kissed me awkwardly, going a little deeper. Our lips and teeth clashed. The feeling was very strange, like when I secretly hid sugar-coated hawthorns in the wardrobe as a child, carefully fearing my mother would catch me. I licked, then licked again. Sweetness, wanting to finish quickly but afraid of going too fast. My senses blurred, my clothes were half undone. Xiaoshuo supported himself on his arms, gazing at my chest, then slowly lowered his head and pressed his mouth to it. A shiver ran through me. I grabbed his waist and cried in pain, pushing him away. "Don't bite me, it hurts, it itches, and it's numb." Xiaoshuo looked up, frowning in annoyance, and said, "Don't bite, then what are you doing in my dream? Torturing me day and night without end. In daytime you just sneak out my money to eat and drink and play, causing trouble outside while you flaunt my name to scare others." Hearing this, I felt guilty. I covered his mouth, not wanting to hear it. It wasn't that I wanted to cause trouble. A while ago I attended a banquet at the Duke's residence. The Duke's daughter always looked at me with displeasure. She openly mocked me for picking a man whom my elder sister didn't want, saying I was noble in front and miserable behind. I taunted her. "Your brother wanted me to marry him so badly back then. You should count yourself lucky I didn't come over, otherwise I'd be the first to torment you. You noisy little sister." She tried to hit me but I beat her instead. I tilted my head and said, "My husband isn't easy-tempered. If you bully me, he'll cut off your head." Seeing she was truly scared, I flaunted myself and waved my claws. "Apologize to me and give me your favorite bouquet of peonies, otherwise I'll not only cut off your head, I'll cut off your father and mother's and your brothers too." Zi Xiao had been by my side at that time. I signaled her to cooperate. Zi Xiao, reluctantly but with a cold face, drew his saber in a flash. Satisfied, I returned to the estate with the peonies. I don't know who gossip-mouthed this and told Xiaoshuo. I told Xiaoshuo not to speak, but he insisted. He bit my palm in my hand and, getting angrier the more he spoke, said, "Shen Yufu, do you really think you're an obedient person? If you don't let you flirt with me, you're gone for 10 days or half a month without a trace. I deliberately walk past you, and you, like a rabbit, turn your head and run." Hearing this, I felt truly wronged. It was clearly him who said he didn't want to be with me and not let me wander in front of him. I softly argued, "It was you who said you didn't want to see me." Xiaoshuo recalled what he said, his expression turning dark, and he grumbled, "My liver is fire, the poison inside can't dissipate, and Dr. Shui told me to stop having spring dreams, but if I don't see you by day, I think of you even more at night." When I heard this, I thought this man was completely unreasonable. I sulkily said, "You said you don't want to be with me, yet you go back and have that kind of dream. I'm right next door to you. If you want to kiss me, just say so." Xiaoshuo cleared his throat and immediately said, "I want to kiss you." For some reason, meeting his gaze made my face heat up. I hooked my arm around his neck and pecked his lips. Xiaoshuo's breath hitched. He pulled my head and pressed his mouth to mine fiercely. I grew hotter, and so did he. To the end my body went slack, but my mind became clear. Xiaoshuo had always said that he would rather be a dog than love me, and now that he was poisoned, he felt like he was dreaming. If I woke up tomorrow, wouldn't he regret and want to kill me? I pushed him, crying in a rush, "No, no, Xiaoshuo, wake up. You said even as a dog you wouldn't love me. I'm detoxifying you. You must not regret tomorrow." Xiaoshuo paused, thought for a moment, and suddenly barked a few times at me. He rubbed his face against my neck and said dryly, "From now on I'll be S big dog. You have to take good care of me." I was stunned. This poison could make a person stupid and silly. If Xiaoshuo remembers this tomorrow, will he regret it to death by crashing into a pillar? When Xiaoshuo saw I didn't agree, he bit me. "Did you hear that?" I hurriedly nodded. "I heard it. I feel like I've fallen under a love poison as well. At first it clearly hurt, but Xiaoshuo coaxed me, and biting me made it hurt less. We were so close, tangled like vines. He could only use his right leg effectively, and after a long time he began to struggle. Xiaoshuo leaned against the wall, holding me. "Shen Yufu, you come." His hand cupped my lips, biting them, still muttering, "Are you a moonflower grown from a peach, so fragrant and sweet?" I pressed against his shoulder with no strength left, tears already dry, thirsting for water. I cried, exhausted and hungry. Has this love poison finally been dispelled? "Zixiao, I want Zixiao." Xiaoshuo covered my mouth to stop me from shouting. Later I fell asleep from exhaustion, only vaguely hearing Xiaoshuo say, "Zixiao, blindfold her, bring in the water." My body felt warm and comfortable. Xiaoshuo's hand softly caressed my brows and eyes, talking to himself, "How did I end up in the hands of you? A little fool." 07 I have made a great actually means big achievement. I'll translate contextually. I've achieved a great feat. Although I'm so tired I slept till late, I'm excited. Xiaoshuo's leg truly can be cured, and from my mother's guess, he can defeat the crown prince. In the future, this will be a dragon's. I must praise myself properly with my mother. Seeing that it's getting late, I hurriedly urged, Zi Xiao, quickly, go home, unexpectedly. As soon as we stepped out, Xiao Shuo was waiting for me on the carriage. When I saw him, I felt my stomach ache and my legs went weak. I quickly wrapped my clothes tighter, fearing he would bite me again like last night. Xiao Shuo gave me a calm look, not at all like last night's frenzy. I silently sat opposite him and tentatively asked, Your Highness, did you sleep well last night? Most importantly, do you still remember yourself lying before me like a big dog and barking? The more unseemly it became. He truly treated himself as a big dog begging me, Shen Yufu, master, you touch my tail. Xiao Shuo even bit my ear and said, You can do whatever you want. Thinking of that scene, I felt my nose warm and hurriedly covered it, but I must not have a nosebleed. When Xiao Shuo heard me ask like that, he lowered his head and took a sip of tea, his gaze roaming my face. He said coolly, Quite well. Hearing his indifferent tone, I grew anxious for a moment. I hoped he wouldn't think of last night's dog business, nor think of me making him kneel before me and call me granny. Of course. I also hope he won't remember me pulling his hair while I rode on his neck. Oh dear. In short, I only remember helping him detoxify. This is and I mustn't forget. I grew anxious and leaned toward him, grabbing his sleeve and said, Your Highness, last night you were poisoned by an entrancement toxin. Do you remember how we detoxified it? Xiao Shuo looked uneasy and said, Some parts one can't recall. You give me a hint. I quickly hugged his neck, pecked his lips and whispered, At the beginning, it was like this for us. Xiao Shuo's chest rose and fell, his breathing quickened a bit. But he still shook his head and said he didn't know. I grew anxious. How could I not recall at all? I tore off my outer garment, revealing the collarbone bite marks, angrily and nearly cried. Last night you bit me like this and wouldn't let me cry, saying my crying would make you nervous. I endured and endured to detox you, and you don't remember. Today it's hot, and what I wear is already thin. I took off the outer layer to reveal a pale yellow tube top, making my skin look even whiter and fuller. Xiao Shuo couldn't hold back any longer and pressed me into his embrace, kissing me hard. I covered my mouth and refused to be annoyed. No kissing. If you kiss me you still won't remember. Xiao Shuo gazed at me as if sighing and said, Shen Yufu. People in the capital used to say that Miss Shen from the Shen family looked like an immortal, but was a bit of a fool. Today, I'm starting to believe it. I shot him a look and said, Don't say those things to belittle me. Do you know that the young masters of the Guogong family are all eager to marry me? It's just that I think their family is too complicated, so I don't want to marry, I said with confidence. Moreover, I have some silly things that I've intentionally spread around. I want to see who can see through my beautiful appearance to my exceptionally bright mind, unique in the world, unrivaled in the world. Otherwise, with a beauty like me, I'd easily marry off, and that would be to the advantage of a smelly man. I was 15 when my beauty had already made me famous in the capital, and suitors came constantly. My elder sister always teased me, with someone as gluttonous and lazy as you, only your mother forces you to pretend to be virtuous in public. If you really married into another family, you'd wake up early and skip lunch, always playing water in the yard at night. Then, the sesame glutinous rice balls would be exposed. I was eating sesame glutinous rice balls at the time and asked quickly, Sister, what would happen if I were exposed? My elder sister waved her fan, sighed softly, and said, Punishment, serve the mother-in-law, kneel in the ancestral hall to copy scriptures, be confined in the yard, not allowed to do this or that. In short, there will be no good days. I was terrified to death. After a while, I went out with my proper mother to attend the banquet, feigning a stupid and gullible appearance. After that, the number of people who asked for my hand in marriage indeed dwindled greatly. Speaking of this matter, I felt that I was truly wise. I looked at Xiao Shuo proudly and said, Your Highness, am I smart? If I had married early, how could I have netted a husband as good as Your Highness, obtaining such a wonderful marriage? Xiao Shuo gently pinched my hand, his gaze on me filled with complicated emotion. It was as if I, when I was hungry, looked at my beloved crystal shrimp dumplings, wanting to eat but afraid I'd finish them, and also thinking they were too beautiful and lovely to eat too roughly. I thought for a moment, cheeks flushing, oh dear, I crave shrimp dumplings. When Xiao Shuo opened his mouth to speak, his voice was rough, He asked, "Do you think I am a good husband? Is marrying me a tremendously good marriage?" I smiled and said, "Of course. I slept until the sun was high and your highness came in and even helped me pull the quilt over me. When lunch didn't go well, your highness specially changed the cook for me. At night when I couldn't sleep and wandered in the courtyard, your highness had Zixiao bring a lantern to light my way, and I secretly took so much of your highness's silver money, and you didn't scold me. My mother always says that if there ever comes a day when she must marry off, she should find a way to make life a bit more comfortable. After marrying, she would assess whether this husband is worth drawing closer to, worth entrusting. If he knows how to love and care for me, then I would get closer to him. After all, a woman's life can be long yet short. If in the back courtyard I can spend more intimate days with my husband, I would be content. But if he is picky, accusatory, or abusive, then I will close the door and keep my heart and live my days my own. If truly unhappy, I will leave and go home. I patted the highness's shoulder grandly and said, "So your highness, you've passed my test. You are a good husband. I am willing to open my heart and grow close to you. But, as you said, if you don't want to live with me, I won't force it. If one day you think the young girl Shen Yufu is beautiful and uniquely clever and lovable, then tell me. You say Shen Yufu, I am willing to live with you." Okay. As I spoke, the carriage arrived. I thought of my mother, and before Xiao Shuo could speak, I hurriedly jumped off the carriage. "Mother, I'm back. Mother, come pick me up. I want to eat crystal shrimp dumplings." 08 The crystal shrimp dumplings didn't get eaten. Instead I was berated for them. I felt incredibly wronged. How would I know that the crown prince and the legitimate sister would be returning home today as well? When I burst through the door, the crown prince clearly saw me but didn't step aside, and I was running so fast that I crashed straight into his arms. Father and the main wife scolded me for lacking manners. My mother stood behind me giving me signals. I could only bow my head and admit my fault. The crown prince smiled softly and said, "Father-in-law need not be angry. My little sister is lively and active. I find her very adorable." His remark was oddly strange. I had long since married the fifth prince. By etiquette, the crown prince should address me as the fifth younger sister, and I was already 18, not a 8-year-old child. The crown prince spoke so lightly and carelessly. I glanced at the main sister's expression, not sure what she was thinking. When Xiao Shuo entered, he happened to hear the crown prince's words, and he suddenly drew Lei Mountain's sword and pointed it at the crown prince. The Eastern Palace guard's expressions all changed. The crown prince instinctively stepped back half a pace, his face pale. It said that the day Xiao Shuo's leg was injured on his return to the capital, he went mad and pointed his sword at the crown prince, nearly stabbing him. Later, the emperor only punished him by confinement and meditation. I recalled Zi Xiao saying Xiao Shuo was poisoned. Perhaps this affair involves the crown prince. The crown prince forced back his anger and said, "5, are you crazy?" Xiao Shuo coolly smiled. "Since you know I have a bad temper and like to lose my temper, you should stop saying things that provoked me. How my wife is adorable." No need for the crown prince to comment. Seeing the atmosphere stall, my father came out to smooth things over and invited them to move to the dining area. The main sister, walking beside me, suddenly sneered oddly. "Shen Yufu, seeing two men make a fool of themselves for you, aren't you pleased?" What is there to be pleased about when a madman praises me? The main sister isn't the type to randomly throw a fit. I reached out to take her arm to ask what was wrong, but she shoved me away hard. I could only meekly walk with my mother. Dining together, my mother examined my brow and sighed. "If you're doing well, I can rest easy." While eating the crystal shrimp dumplings, I asked, "What happened to sister?" My mother whispered, "Some time ago your sister had a nightmare in the Eastern Palace, a high fever for 3 days with no sign of recovery. The lady personally went to the Eastern Palace to take care of her. I've heard the Empress Dowager has long mistreated your sister. Recently she forced her to kneel in the Buddhist hall to copy sutras, and she even miscarried a child." I was taken aback. Even the exceptionally outstanding sister could be criticized by the Empress Dowager. Recalling my sister's tired appearance beneath her makeup, I said with a heavy heart, "Doesn't the crown prince protect you?" My mother shook her head with a sigh. After the meal I handed my mother a jewel-filled box, saying proudly, "These are all carefully selected from Xiao Shuo's treasury. Mother can use them to make jewelry and headdresses." My mother tapped my forehead helplessly. "Oh you're just being wayside." I smiled, made a goofy face, took a fruit, and ran out. Who knew that after stepping out, I overheard the main sister chatting with Xiao Shuo in the small garden. Before I reached them, I already heard the main sister crying. She choked and said, "Xiao Shuo, when the former Empress Dowager was alive, she loved me and always brought me into the palace for a short stay. You once said you would marry me in the future, but in the end you betrayed me." My steps paused. Xiao Shuo calmly said, "Shen Miaorong, the marriage you withdrew from." The main sister collapsed, saying, "That's because you were too cold to me. If you had said one word to stay, wouldn't I have endured the hardship with you?" "Xiao Shuo, do you know my sister loves the crown prince? You're just a stand-in." I lowered my head, staring at the fruit in my hand. The main sister dried her tears, calmed herself, and said again, "Xiao Shuo, I will help you topple the crown prince and ascend the throne. Once successful, you will grant me the position of empress. As for Shen Yufu, if you like her, I can allow her to be a noble consort." Xiao Shuo sneered, "You permit, Shen Miaorong, have you perhaps gone mad from copying sutras?" The main sister gritted her teeth and said, "If you refuse me today, you will regret it." She turned and walked away. I watched her silhouette with worry, wanting to follow. I didn't expect Xiao Shuo to suddenly call out when he fixed his gaze on the place I was hiding. "Shen Yufu, do you think you can just watch me be snatched away by another woman like this? Has my mouth fallen into the pond and become a mute?" I walked out awkwardly and said, "Your Highness, when did you discover mine?" I saw Zi Xiao nearby give me a gesture. "Fine." I almost forgot that there are formidable masters like Lei Shan and Zi Xiao by his side. I lowered my head and said, "I'm afraid I'll disturb you and your sister's serious talk." Xiao Shuo punched the back of my hand and spoke with a grim face. What serious matters could I have with her? After saying that, he looked at my expression and then added, "When I was young, my mother lay in bed ill most of the time. She liked Shen Miaorong and summoned her to the inner palace to accompany her. At that time I tried to please my mother by treating Shen Miaorong as a sister. If there hadn't been a turning point, I would have indeed followed my mother's last commands to marry her. But with her, I truly only feel a brother-sister affection." I didn't have time to argue points like these with him and hurried off to find my proper sister. Behind me, Xiao Shuo shouted, "Shen Yufu, do you have a heart?" After searching for a while, I found her sitting on a swing, lost in thought. I stood at a distance, afraid she'd be angry if I approached. My proper sister stared at me for a while and sighed. "You come here." I rushed over and sat beside her. I stuffed an apple into her hand and whispered, "Sister, this fruit is very sweet, you should try it." Hearing this, a tear slid down the corner of her eye as she gave me a hard smack. "Shen Yufu, are you an idiot? I just learned you were hiding in the corner and deliberately told Xiao Shuo those things to slander you and provoke your feelings for him." I hugged her arm and said, "Sister is 5 years older than me. Though you always say I'm stupid, your loving care for me has never wavered. I know you must have experienced something unusual to crash like this." My sister's tears surged and she could no longer hold back, holding me as she cried silently. I gently stroked her head to comfort her. "It'll be all right, everything will be fine. You, with your exceptionally clever sister, will surely protect you." My sister said, "Shen Yufu, I hate you, but I hate those men even more." 09 On the first night Shen Miaorong married into the Eastern Palace, she already sensed something was very wrong. A few of the emperor's close palace maids bore some resemblance to her, not to her, but to her younger sister Shen Yufu. Shen Yufu's beauty was renowned. Sometimes when she walked on the street without a veil, passers-by would stop in their tracks, astonished that such a refined, exquisite girl could exist in this world. The prince's hand casually brushed over her brows and eyes without any attempt to hide it, and he said lewdly, "You and your sister look more alike. I had hoped that marrying the betrothed of the 5th younger master would make me happier, but thinking today is the day of Shen Yufu's and his wedding, I feel as if something's stuck in my throat." Shen Miaorong was an extraordinarily proud person, and she immediately pushed the prince away, but the prince forced himself on her, thinking of the days and nights in the Eastern Palace. Shen Miaorong only felt humiliation. At first she resisted by gnashing her teeth and swallowing the anger, never showing the slightest distress or vulnerability. She envisioned a man as cold and unromantic as Xiao Shuo, so that even if she married Shen Yufu, they would maintain a courteous distance. But she was wrong. Shen Miaorong stood on the viewing terrace, quietly watching the two people by the lake, Shen Yufu had bent a willow branch and laid it on the stones, teasing the koi in the water. She rolled up her sleeves, swung her legs, and pinched candied fruits from her purse to eat. At home she was lazy and playful like this, but how could she be so uncompliant after marriage? Shen Miaorong planned to descend to remind her, but she caught sight of Xiao Shuo approaching with 2 attendants from afar, and she stopped in her tracks. Xiao Shuo saw Shen Yufu lying on the stone and frowned, clearly not liking Shen Yufu's appearance, since he always cared about his demeanor. To her surprise, the next moment Xiao Shuo pulled Shen Yufu up, removed his cloak, and laid it on the stone for her. From a distance she could faintly see Xiao Shuo's lips move, as if saying, "The stone is cold. Be careful not to catch a chill and have a stomach ache after returning home, which would spoil your dinner." Shen Miaorong's heart suddenly felt suffocated. She saw Shen Yufu press a candied fruit into Xiao Shuo's mouth, and Shen Yufu lay on his shoulder, muttering something. Softly, Xiao Shuo's hand rose as if to stroke her hair, hesitated for a moment, and then lowered it again. Shen Miaorong knows how clingy her younger sister is. At home, her sister always pounces into her arms to whisper secrets, her body smelling sweet and soft, begging to be held and squeezed properly. Xiao Shuo's tense expression eased, and Shen Yufu smiled at him playfully. Behind them, the old nanny's rigid voice came through, "The crown princess, you should go serve in the Queen Mother's palace." Shen Miaorong closed her eyes with a sigh. A while ago, the Queen Mother scolded her for lacking manners and punished her by copying the Blood Sutra. Just because she hadn't noticed that the Crown Prince had finished his tea, the days grew more and more unbearable, until she suffered a miscarriage and fell into a long nightmare. The leg healed after the nightmare. Xiao Shuo rose to rebel. The Crown Prince fell into a pool of blood, and the bright red blood stained Shen Miaorong's shoes as it flowed down the steps. Sitting on the throne, his first edict was to enshrine Shen Yufu as empress. Shen Miaorong knelt in the great hall, sneering, "Xiao Shuo, you are indeed deeply affectionate. Do you know that Shen Yufu has loved the Crown Prince from the beginning to the end? If you kill him, she will hate you to death." Little did anyone know that Xiao Shuo simply said coolly, "Do you think I'm rushing to raise an army for this?" In an instant Shen Miaorong realized, the Crown Prince must die, because he is Shen Yufu's beloved. Shen Miaorong woke from the nightmare to the sound of her mother's crying. Learning that she had lost a child, Shen Miaorong thought, well, after all, she never wanted to bear that beast's child. In the night, the Crown Prince held her hand gently and said, "Miaorong, your younger sister will be going home tomorrow. Let us return together. You put this medicine in her tea, then take her to my room. After the deed is done, claim that she intentionally tried to seduce me, and Xiao Shuo will surely discard her." Shen Miaorong felt a cold shiver run through her body. The Crown Prince intends to defile Shen Yufu. Miaorong, clutching the medicine, could not sleep and secretly went to find the Crown Prince, but overheard the Crown Prince and his trusted aide saying, "After all these years, the 5th brother finally has a vulnerability. If he discovers Shen Yufu and I are involved, he will go mad. Then I can use contending against the Emperor as an excuse to remove him, and Shen Yufu can become my woman as well. Such a win-win situation, just waiting for that stupid woman Miaorong to become jealous and make her move to drug him." 10. My eldest sister, after saying all these things, trembled all over. I held her tightly and kept comforting her. "Big sister, don't be afraid, let's not lose our heads. Since the prince wants to use me to provoke Xiao Shuo, we should go with the flow," I whispered. "If the prince dies and you can be freed, then let him die." From the moment I heard he forced my eldest sister, I had already treated the prince as dead. I thought carefully and said, "In 10 days will be the emperor's birthday. At that time, civil and military officials will all come to the Western Hill Pavilion to celebrate. Xiao Shuo's army is at the Western Hill camp. Then sister, you can give the prince the medicine, and I will give Xiao Shuo the medicine again. Then they will turn on each other, and Xiao Shuo can kill the prince with one sword. The civil and military officials will understand Xiao Shuo's virtue even if the prince is ruined. Once his leg injury heals, he will naturally ascend to the prince's throne. A dead prince is far less valuable than a living Xiao Shuo. Now, among the emperor's sons, the 6th prince is a petty man, the 10th prince is dull, and the 15th prince is young. Only by making Xiao Shuo the prince will the country's foundation remain stable," I whispered to my eldest sister. "When I was young, I went with you to the inner court to visit the late Empress Dowager. And I saw the emperor tearfully holding the ailing empress quietly. I felt in my heart that the emperor must favor Xiao Shuo even more, so even if he killed the prince, the emperor would not punish him. My eldest sister looked at me with a complex expression and said, "In the old days the master said you were intelligent, and I didn't believe it. Now I understand you. Your usual laziness and lack of effort hid how clever you are when you truly apply yourself." I proudly said, "Of course, I've told you all along that I'm a talented and beautiful girl." My eldest sister sighed, "But if you act as you say, your reputation will be ruined. Even if Xiao Shuo becomes prince, the civil and military officials will never allow a woman of unvirtuous conduct to be the princess." When I heard this, I recalled Xiao Shuo's smile at me and looked down to toy with my waist ornament, saying indifferently, "If you hesitate and weigh every move, you won't get anything done, and if Xiao Shuo truly likes me, he'll find a way to solve these problems." As I said this, I suddenly stood up with a start and cried out. My eldest sister sprang up, nervously grabbing my hand. "What's wrong?" I looked around. The surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. I pressed my lips and said, "Xiao Shuo has always sent Zizhao to protect me for my safety. And she, where is she?" As soon as I finished speaking, Zizhao silently stepped out from behind a big tree. She looked awkwardly at me and pointed to the flower wall, whispering, "Your Highness has long since arrived." My eldest sister rolled her eyes in anger and pinched me. You, always praising yourself. You're still such a careless ghost. Now Xiao Shuo will know everything." Xiao Shuo came out from behind the flower wall in a wheelchair, his face expressionless, staring at me. I rushed over to grab his hand, trying to salvage my image. I pretended to cry hypocritically and said, "Your Highness, listen to me. I just told my sister I drugged you to coerce you into rebelling, but that's all nonsense. I only heard my sister say the prince coveted me and I'm really scared. He's the prince. After all, if he truly wanted to humiliate me, what could you, a disabled and unfavored prince, do? But rest assured, Your Highness, even if things really happen, I can endure it and tend to the prince without implicating you." Xiao Shuo could no longer bear it and pinched my face in frustration, sighing, fair-sounding, "Shut up." 11 Xiao Shuo still decided to rebel on the emperor's birthday. He held me and pressed a kiss to my cheek, whispering, "Zixiao will protect you. If we fail, she will take you to the south of the Yangtze." I rose on tiptoe and kissed his lips, fumbled with his clothes. He tried to push me away, but I clung to him even tighter. In the end, Xiao Shuo couldn't resist my ardent entanglement and sighed, letting me undress him. Outside, red candles burned, shadows of the flames swayed. I clenched the quilt and kept trembling uncontrollably. Xiao Shuo moved more lightly, even more lightly. My heart felt hollow, my body light and floaty. I hooked my waist around him and slammed my fist against his chest. Xiao Shuo gave a low laugh, and I knew he was deliberately teasing me. He propped himself on his arms and pressed his hot face to mine, whispering, "That night you were incredibly bold, straddling my waist, flaunting yourself, ordering me to do many things. Why are you so shy tonight?" I quickly covered his mouth to stop him from continuing. Xiao Shuo said more, "But I can't remember that night anymore. It's all lies." A moment later I couldn't speak either, only whined. Xiao Shuo pulled back the quilt inch by inch and kissed me, coaxing me, "Let me see." "Okay." I pulled the quilt over my face, my body trembling slightly. His hair brushed across my abdomen, making it itch a little. I curled my toes and couldn't help but kick him. The red candles burned out, and the room fell completely dark. Xiao Shuo was tormenting me, and he had me pressed against the window, so I looked up at the full moon outside. His legs, I don't know when, had already healed. Xiao Shuo's chest pressed against my back. He tilted my chin and bit my lips. My voice was blocked in my throat, fragmented, when my consciousness was dimming. Xiao Shuo said, "Shen Yufu, if I come back alive, I will surely live a good life with you." 12 The Emperor's longevity banquet is held at the Western Mountain Palace, with all civil and military officials congratulating him. Xiao Shuo sits at the prince's lower seat, sipping his wine with a calm expression. The princes come forward one by one to present their gifts. The crown prince asks Xiao Shuo mockingly, "What good gift has the fifth brother prepared for father?" The sixth prince sneers. Could it be that fifth brother prepared something novel, intending to present it last and outshine us all? Xiao Shuo responds coolly, yes, perhaps to plot rebellion and kill you all. The crown prince is left speechless, and the sixth prince rolls his eyes. Shen Miaorong glances at Xiao Shuo and quietly stuffs the cup used by the crown prince into her sleeve. At that moment, the palace hall resounds with celestial music as the dancers enter one by one, each dressed in ethereal beauty. The dancers begin to dance gracefully, holding lotus flowers. After the dancers disperse, a fairy dressed in colorful robes and with a captivating appearance steps forward. She holds a longevity peach and pretends to be a goddess of longevity. Stunningly beautiful, everyone gazes at her in unison, even forgetting to breathe. Xiao Shuo takes a shallow breath and tightens his grip on his wine cup. How could it be Shen Yufu? Hadn't she already been sent away by Zi Xiao? 13. The crown prince has been deposed and the empress consort banished to a distant place. After I woke up, I heard this enormous piece of good news, and I felt that everything was worth it. I looked in the mirror at the bruise on my neck and frowned. You good-for-nothing crown prince, you almost strangled me. Xiao Shuo held me tightly without saying a word. I patted his shoulder. Your Highness, don't be afraid, aren't I fine now? After hearing that, Xiao Shuo's eyes sank as he asked me, who allowed you to act on your own? I wasn't afraid of him at all, so I scratched his palm, smiling, and said, Your Highness, you will become a just and wise ruler in the future. I don't want you to bear the crime of killing your brother and plotting rebellion. If I come out like this, I've only suffered a little injury and yet the crown prince can be disposed of. Isn't that a double win? Truth for truth. If Xiao Shuo could rise up to oppose the current regime for me, I can also muster courage to help him. Xiao Shuo's eyes reddened as he looked at me, tears glistening in his eyes, and he pressed his face against my palm. His tears seemed to moisten my skin like spring rain. I could feel him trembling. I stroked his hair. When he finally calmed down, I could make a request. I immediately claimed credit. Your Highness, I am also a great contributor. When you eventually ascend the throne and take other consorts, you must not let others bully me. My mother was right. Xiao Shuo will have great prospects, but now I have not yet conceived a child. I'm really afraid my position might not be secure. Xiao Shuo was so angry by what I said that he chuckled and retorted, Shen Yufu, you're so useless. He paused and then asked, do you still think I am a cruel and insincere person in your heart? I muttered, we don't have feelings for each other anyway. Didn't you refuse to live with me? Xiao Shuo's chest heaved as he roared, Shen Yufu, have I learned to bark? Did I tell you I was willing to be with you? Why can't you remember the words I said? But remember the stupid things you said. I widened my eyes and retorted, listen to yourself. Are you not fickle enough? You said you would never love me even if I became a dog. But then you turned around and became a dog. You said you wouldn't want to live with me, yet you can't resist my beauty and are willing now. If I risked my life to gain a dragon slaying and it was wrong, I felt more and more wronged, tears streaming down as I turned away to hide under the blanket, not wanting to deal with Xiao Shuo. Xiao Shuo handed me a decree. I opened it and was stunned. Xiao Shuo said, this is what I asked my father for. If I ever truly change my mind, you hold on to this decree and leave me. The decree appoints me as the Lady of Qingju. If I can't become empress, I can at least be a county lord. My heart settled at once. I blew a kiss on Xiao Shuo's face and said happily, Your Highness, I like a man who is noble and magnanimous. Xiao Shuo glared at me with a sour look and said, your sister once said you previously admired the crown prince. I lowered my head and studied the decree, not taking it seriously. Oh, I'm bored, so I flirt with handsome men from time to time. Today I like the second young master of the Yangshu department because of his hands. Tomorrow I like the eldest son of the Shengshu family because his smile is good-looking. As for loving the crown prince, it's because his riding posture is especially handsome. Xiao Shuo pushed me and asked, then what do you like about me? My eyes rolled and I grinned. I like you as my big dog. Xiao Shuo's face darkened. He went out for a while. I waited until I fell asleep. Xiao Shuo woke me by pushing me. I saw 2 dog ears atop his head and a tail growing behind him. The fur was fluffy, and I didn't know when it was done. He lay by my bed, wagging his tail, and barked softly in a flushed face. Xiao Shuo pulled out a collar and whispered, Master, put it on me. I will be yours. I was stunned. When Xiao Shuo saw I wasn't moving, he gritted his teeth and warned, Shen Yufu, if you dare to say this is just nonsense to scare me, I will spank you until your butt bleeds, I hurriedly put the collar on him and whispered into his ear. Xiao Shuo's face reddened further as he cleared his throat and said, "We'll play again tonight."